Ice Miller presents Indiana Week in Review, Friday nights on WFYI.
WFYI, always here for you.
The state of education in the workforce is made possible through the support of Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations.
Hello, I'm Governor Eric Holcomb. Our state and nation have been changing for a long time. But one thing remains the same, and that's the importance of an education as a driver to unlock a person's potential and light their pathway to their personal prosperity. That's why we're committed to achieving a big goal by 2025, ensuring at least 60% of Hoosiers earn a quality education or credential beyond high school. It's not a number we've come to by accident. It's more important now than ever before for Hoosiers to be ready to meet the workforce needs of today and be able to adapt to the new and emerging demands of tomorrow. That's why we created the Governor's Workforce Cabinet in the first place in 2018, to align our state's agencies, our programs, and all of our efforts to focus more on investing in people and the future, therefore, in Indiana. Because this is what will set Hoosiers apart as leaders and innovators nationally and globally. In a moment, you'll hear from three of our state's leaders in this work. Secretary of Education Katie Jenner, Commissioner for Higher Education Teresa Lovers, and Workforce Development Commissioner Fred Payne. They'll discuss what Indiana needs to be ready to adapt, how we'll get there, and why building a cohesive talent pipeline all the way from preschool to employment to happy retirement is so critical for our overall success. Their leadership and dedication to making this a reality for more Hoosiers shines through in their united efforts. So, I trust you'll enjoy their discussion.
We know that there's a direct link between a person's educational attainment and their quality of life, health, employment, and living wage. We have students for 13 years, and this is just the start of their educational journey. It is critical that we do everything possible to teach the knowledge and skills necessary to set a foundation for lifelong success. By bringing everyone to the table, we have an opportunity to create smooth transitions for our students and positively impact Hoosier lives. As students, educators, and leaders, this starts with us, and together we can help springboard students to achieve their greatest potential.
We know that more than ever, education that is aligned to workforce needs and a changing economy provides the best opportunity for personal prosperity and economic mobility. It's essential that we provide pathways so those opportunities are available to all and not to some, whether that's the recent graduate or a returning adult. We need to make a case to Hoosiers about the value of post-secondary education as job needs are changing and learning is ongoing. Our commitment collectively between pre-K-12, higher education, and workforce is to ensure a system that responds to individual career goals while meeting the needs of employers and the state's economy.
Intentional engagement is critical for our future. To ensure that people are equipped for workforce and career opportunities, we must be intentional, persistent, and consistent about our engagement to help people reach their educational and their career goals. The goal is to have Hoosiers know what education and career resources are available and how to access them. This will take engagement. In order to provide Hoosiers with known and accessible resources, those of us in state government must have intentional and additional engagement that involves employers, educators, and the community. This type of 360 engagement helps with the transitions people will make in and between our K-12, higher education, and our workforce spaces, and will move Hoosiers to more educational and career opportunity. As an example of a transition, When people are running a relay race, regardless of how fast the runners are, if that handoff isn't smooth and they drop the baton, they can be as fast as they want, but they aren't going to win the race. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that we have a smooth transition from K through 12 to whatever the next level is for that person.
2020 was a year unlike any other for many reasons. And while we're seeing economic improvements in 2021, there are many challenges that we're facing. But it has provided us with an opportunity for Indiana state education and workforce agencies to work together to meet current needs while preparing for the future. That's what we're here today doing in presenting the State of Education and Workforce discussion as we consider a longer-term outlook and plan to set Indiana apart in a dynamic and global economy. So we're focusing on the future of learning, the future of work, and the future of Indiana. Our hope is that this discussion will provide those who join us with a better understanding of what Indiana is doing to ensure all Hoosiers have access, opportunity, and the best start or restart to a meaningful and prosperous career and life. Let's begin our discussion today by considering what is changing about learning.
It's a great question. The pace of change for life and work was accelerating before COVID-19 even hit. And of course, COVID-19 has absolutely caused the foot on the gas and further accelerated that change. And the change happening in life and work is absolutely impacting what is happening in our schools with teaching and with learning. So as we're looking ahead and thinking about how we might best serve our students in Indiana, we're thinking about the right fit for each child and the pathways and opportunities that we in the K-12 space might be able to provide access. For example, increasing work-based learning experiences, increasing opportunities available to students to earn post-secondary credentials prior to high school graduation. So 64% of Indiana's high school seniors graduate with dual credit. About a fifth of our high schools offer the Indiana College Core, which again gives them a springboard, an educational post-secondary opportunity that further allows them great potential ahead. So we're really looking at blurring the lines between K-12 and higher ed and workforce, and just making sure all of our students have access to the right fit, considering the accelerating change that we're seeing around us.
Yeah, I'd like to start with what's not changed. And what's not changed is the actual need for education and the need for training. If anything, that's been accelerated. So first, I start with that. The need for education and the need for training has not changed, but it's accelerated, and we need more of it. The things that have changed, as Katie mentioned, I think the pace. The pace has changed, the delivery methods have changed, and the platforms have changed. Because once upon a time, training was in a classroom or it was in a particular area. Now we've seen that training can be delivered on a variety of platforms, whether it's virtual, in person, at an employer's location. It could be done as a part of any work-based learning program. So the delivery methods have changed. But in addition to that, the employer's need for a specific type of education and training has changed as well. One of the things that COVID-19 has allowed us, or that's informed us, is that there's a greater aptitude or appetite for individuals who can solve problems, who can think critically, and who can really quickly adapt. Those things were happening before, but COVID-19 helped to accelerate the pace of that and the need for that. So employers are looking for something a little differently, but also individuals, they've understood now, or they are understanding a little bit better now, that the more education and training they have, the more opportunity and the more flexibility that they have.
I'd like to build on what you just said, Fred, about the employer community and point out what we're doing at the commission. Our new strategic plan is called Reaching Higher in a State of Change. And as a part of that, we are requiring that all higher education programs have career relevance. And by this we mean an internship, an apprenticeship, a research project, something that aligns what students are learning with what they will do, so that we're doing this concurrently, not sequentially. And I think employers really appreciate this as well. We need to make sure that when we're doing this, that students have an opportunity to take advantage of that, because we believe that will prepare them for the next chapter of their life and be more likely to keep them in Indiana after they graduate as well.
Yeah, I agree too. That's one of that goes into this notion that if individuals can get a taste of a certain type of career or a certain type of atmosphere, they may get they may start to like it, and then they bought into it. So, for example, if an individual sees an engineering firm or they go to a facility that has a lot of engineering work, their appetite is whet for that. They're going to try to get more education and training to be that type of engineer. And chances are they're going to get it in Indiana. And if they get it in Indiana, and if they found that source that sparked their interest in Indiana, chances are they'll stay.
So we've talked a little bit about the future of learning. Let's talk about the future of work, building on this conversation we're having about the employer community as well. So what do we do to prepare students for both the needs of today to get a good job, but also for the emerging needs in a changing and dynamic economy?
I think, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, engagement is ever so important. We must engage individuals where they are, but we also, and I'm going to take a line from Wayne Gretzky, he kind of like to say that he likes to go where the puck is going to be. We have to make sure that we're engaging them in the situation and the moment that they're in now. But we also need to make sure that we're guiding them with training and education that's going to take them into the future. And one of the ways that we're focused at the Department of Workforce Development is looking at this in what I like to call our 3D approach. We have to make sure that we're looking at how we deliver, how we draw, and how we develop. So let's take developing. When we look at how we develop the type of training and education, we have to engage with employers to understand what type of training and what type of educational needs there are. That takes engagement with not only employers, but the educational institutions that will actually teach the training that employers will need. Then secondly, we need to draw. We need to draw individuals in to let them understand what training and what education opportunities are out there, and what those things would do for them in the future. So we must draw them in. And that would take a specific type of outreach. Then third is delivery. We talked about what's changed in education. Really, it's delivery. We have to ensure that we are delivering our training and our education to meet the demands of today based upon the platforms that we have available, but also be flexible enough in certain environments to change the platforms in which we deliver that training.
I think also when we think about how every single grade level matters, and every single year in the life of a child, young adult matters to really give them the springboard necessary to have lifelong success. So it's really about the whole education, training, and workforce talent development continuum. And so in the pre-K-12 space, we know that what we're teaching our students really matters, and also our educator pipeline really matters. So for example, Indiana is now shifting to where students have graduation pathway options. And no longer do they have to have a high-stakes assessment that determines graduation. Now they have their diploma requirements, they have their service-based, work-based, or project-based learning experience, so really that hands-on experience. And then thirdly, they have that post-secondary competency opportunities, which connects them to potentially what's ahead and that next step. So looking at where do we want a student to be and backwards designing from there into our full K-12 space. And the other piece I want to hit on is our educator pipeline. The conversations we're having in our classrooms and the conversations our teachers are having, they matter so much it could even be if a child believes in themselves and dreams big and is set up on the right path or the path that makes the most sense for their lifelong success. And so really making sure our educators feel comfortable with the transition and the acceleration of change that we're seeing. That's critical for us.
When I think about preparing people for the jobs of today, but also preparing them for the jobs of the future, I'm informed by what's happened in the past when we haven't always done that and we've left people behind. And I'm concerned that we not do this time. We know that those who have more education are less likely to have job disruptions and to be impacted by the volatility of the market. And so we have an obligation to make sure that we are not leaving people behind so that they do have those opportunities. There's no way for us to get to this big goal that we talk about in Indiana, which is that 60% of Hoosiers would have a quality credential beyond high school if we leave people behind. Those individuals, low income, minority students, returning adults who haven't been able to fully participate in the economy, we have an obligation to them to make sure that they can. The good news is that we have programs in Indiana that make sure that education is accessible to everybody. We celebrated last year the 30th anniversary of the 21st Century Scholars Program, which provides an opportunity for low-income students to be prepared for life after high school, to be prepared for college, and it's working. We have the Next Level Jobs program, and under that we have the Workforce Ready grant, which basically says to adults, if you come back and get a high-value, high-demand certificate, it will be tuition-free for you. And we know you'll get a job, we know you'll meet the needs of the employers, and we know you'll help strengthen the state. The Employer Training Grant that the Department of Workforce Development is overseeing provides an opportunity for employers to train their incumbent and their new workers. Let's make a commitment together with our agencies and with the employer community that we will not leave Hoosiers behind. We've talked a little bit about the future of learning, the future of work, and all of this is important because we're talking about the future of the state that we love. And how are we going to make sure that Indiana is prepared for the future? And I know we've had opportunities to talk about this together. Any thoughts about what we're doing right now to make sure that Indiana is not left behind?
Sure. Teresa, there are a few things that I think that are critical here. Is that we focus on the word evolution and the word development. Evolution and development are critical when we talk about a workforce and we talk about individuals who can reach their maximum potential. Just because an individual is in a job today and they're doing well in that job today and they have the requisite education and skills for that job at the moment does not mean that they'll have the same level of education and skill for tomorrow if they don't evolve with that job. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we have a workforce that's continuing to evolve and that is getting the right amount of education at the right time, and that we're providing them, the community, with information on labor market information on what types of jobs will be available in the future, what employer demands are to fill those jobs are for in the future. All of that goes back to education and training. We know that education and training really are the highway to job stability, to growth, and economic mobility. And we want all Hoosiers to be on that highway. One of the things that we can't afford to do is to allow Hoosiers to be on an unmarked, unrepaired road that leads them to wage stagnation and the lack of growth. What we want to do is to ensure that they are on that economic highway, and I think we are well positioned to help them get there.
In K-12, we take very seriously our schools and our educators, what a student's trajectory could be just by allowing access to equity and access and opportunities to various coursework to various workforce careers that maybe they have never heard of or dreamed about, but looking forward will need. So really an opportunity that we see in K-12 is as an inspirational springboard as to what could be ahead and what really can be ahead.
And I think one additional thing to kind of add on to what you were saying is that we have to be clear on what education is. Okay? Education is very broad, and there's room in it for everyone. You have individuals who want to get a PhD. Then you have individuals who want to receive a short-term, high-demand, high-wage certification, and everything in between. We want to make sure that we have created a system and that we're fostering a system so that Hoosiers can choose where they are on that spectrum of education, and that we've provided the resources for them to make a well-informed decision on what career opportunities that they want to take, and that we provided them with the financial resources to take advantage of those. Commissioner mentioned the Workforce Brady Grant Program and the 21st Century Scholars Program. Those are good examples of showing the diversity within our education system that people can take advantage of.
You know, you both have talked about right fit. You know, the right fit for the individual so they can meet their own personal goals and aspirations, and that we are nudging them to places that are they're most likely to be successful because the employers need those kinds of skills, and that by doing that we're strengthening the economy. You know, we know that educational attainment matters. We know that having those kinds of skills and training matters, that it improves individual incomes. We know that it helps to build a stronger economy in the state of Indiana. I mentioned earlier that one of our metrics was about career relevance. Another one of our metrics in our strategic plan is that we're really making sure that we're addressing the median household income for Hoosiers. And this is tough. It is hard to move income levels for Hoosiers, and we can't do it individually. I think one of the best things about us being together for this discussion is we each have a part to play in doing that, improving the lives of the individual, improving their incomes, improving their personal prosperity, and having the opportunity to live a meaningful life. And certainly there is no greater challenge than raising per capita income or household income. And I look forward to the opportunity to continue to partner with both of you in this important work.
Well, and I think that is a critical key point, the partnership of early learning to grade 12, higher education, workforce, and when we work together, not only as a state, but really locally, to activate communities, to provide opportunities for Hoosiers, we're all the better for it.
And we're deciding what kind of a place Indiana is going to be. The kind of place where people want to live, they want to move to, they want to grow a business. And, you know, I think we all have a role in that, and we certainly know that government can't do it. You know, basically this depends on engaging with our employer community, with community leaders throughout the state, recognizing regional economies and strengths. What are our assets and how do we build on those? But one thing for sure, we want to do this collectively, not in silos. You know, we have a few minutes left, and if you're like me, one of the things that concerns me is that we work hard to develop these programs that we think will be helpful to people. Sometimes they don't know about them. Sometimes they think they're not the right fit for them. Sometimes they don't have the confidence to come back. And so we really need to work with community leaders and people around the state who know these people personally, who are trusted advisors in their community, and who will say, did you know that you could go back and get a tuition-free certificate and get a better job? Did you know that you could be a 21st century scholar and go to college and it won't cost you to pay for the tuition? So I guess one of the things that I want us to be able to say as we conclude today is to make our case to people who are listening to help us make sure people know about these programs, because if we build them and they don't come, it's not going to have made a difference. And we want these to be life-changing opportunities for Hoosiers.
I agree with you, Teresa. I think one of the challenges that we have is that when we have a program that's successful in terms of output, but we don't have as many people to take advantage of them as possible. And I think that boils down to awareness. We have to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that the awareness is in the proper hands. And to your point, getting that information to community leaders, people that individuals trust, your neighbor, your pastor, the person you run into that knew you 2 years ago when you worked at such and such. All of those things play a part of this bigger community of awareness, but it all begins with engagement. We must be intentional about the engagement that we have about the programs that we're providing.
The other thing to add on that our team has spoken about quite a bit is we have some really good work happening in some of our Indiana communities where they are partnering hand in hand with their early learning to 12 system, their higher ed, their workforce, and creating incredible opportunities, whether it's through work-based learning or further training. So how do we celebrate the great work happening in Indiana and point to some of our models as best practices for others to learn and engage with? And again, it's our locals are really, our local leaders are really the people who are getting it done for their communities.
And we need to celebrate them. We need to make sure that that people feel this sense of hope. And certainly COVID has exposed this, that we really need people to be able to feel a sense that they can re-engage again. So thank you, Secretary Jenner and Commissioner Payne, for sharing your perspectives and for your drive, determination, and collaboration in this very important work. This will be an ongoing conversation, and I believe this sets the stage for the continued strong partnership that we're all committed to. Our collective message to Hoosiers is that we've got your back so you can move forward as we build the talent pipeline that our state needs to be successful. I'll now turn it back over to Governor Holcomb for a few last words.
Thank you, Commissioner Lover, Secretary Jenner, and Commissioner Payne for sharing your passion for education and for our workforce. So, what should we do with the information we just heard about in that insightful conversation? Well, there's never been a better time, and there have never been more resources available to help Hoosiers build a better future. It often starts with a single step, a step that each of us must take for ourselves. The good news is that, as you've heard today, Indiana's here to help, and here to help you think bigger, reach higher, and take your education, your career, and your future to the next level.
State of Education in the Workforce is made possible through the support of Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations.